All right, welcome everybody to the presentation on artificial intelligence. I think AI is visiting us early because we've been having a few issues, but at any rate, Susan Gaylor is with us. She's with us by phone because there are some issues with being able to get the audio and visual working. Let me just say that Susan Gaylor has spoken with us before. She always does a fabulous job. She's the communication director at SAP. She's an employee brand journalist and a video reporter covering innovation. And she has over 20 years of business to business experience managing all aspects of the marketing and communications mix for global companies. So, Susan, do you want to say a few words, or shall I switch us right to the screen?
No, let's get started.
Okay. So again, if everyone would stay muted and put your questions in chat, and we'll field them to Susan in a bit. So here we go. I'm going to try the screen share. Hopefully, folks can see that. All right, so we have the first screen up on generative artificial intelligence.
Thanks so much, Ginny. Thanks for your patience. And thanks for everyone's patience. I think it's a little bit ironic that we're having technical issues. And here I am. I'm going to talk about one of the latest technological innovations in the world. So we have to appreciate the irony here. But thanks for having me again. And thanks for everyone for joining the conversation. So I'd like to start with a couple of caveats and a request. Next slide, please.
Done?
Right. So first, I don't have all the answers when it comes to artificial intelligence. No one does. There is a lot of fear-mongering. The number one question people have is if generative AI will take people's jobs away or worse, make human beings irrelevant. So in those questions, I hope to put your mind at ease. In exchange, here's my request. I would ask that you join this conversation with an open mind. To kick off this call, I deliberately chose two diametrically opposite views of generative AI because I don't fall on either of these extremes. Will it solve every intractable problem in the world, or is it just a chatbot that frustrates us to no end? I'm thinking the reality will be somewhere in the middle. We won't do things differently. We'll do different things. Change is hard. Most people don't like change, even when it benefits them. And just to share a little bit my personal view, when I was in my early 20s, I made a pledge to myself that I would never stop learning. And in that moment, I had no idea what that pledge to lifelong learning would mean for my career, even my personal life. I mean, the impact has been profound. I'm always stepping out of my comfort zone because there is no other way to learn. Next slide, please.
This is slide 3, right?
3. Yep, we're on slide 3. So I'm going to share some context about my company, SAP, that Ginny mentioned. Then I'm going to explain why people are so excited about AI right now. I'll share some examples of what I've been writing about for the past year or so in my blogs, how AI is already in our daily lives, and then a few concluding thoughts from researchers. And we should have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So I would ask you to hold your thoughts or put them in the chat, absolutely, but I can't see it anyway. So I'll rely on Ginny to wrap this up at the end. Next slide, please. And the next one, slide 5. SAP is a market leader in what's known as end-to-end enterprise application software, otherwise called ERP, which officially stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. Unless you're in the IT industry or you've heard some of my other talks, you've likely never heard of us because we're not a consumer-facing brand like Microsoft or Amazon. But we are very much behind the scenes, working with those tech giants and many other companies that all of us buy products in every industry. I won't read all these stats to you, but they demonstrate where we are. SAP systems touch 77% of all the entire transactions in the world. We literally run most every industry: oil and gas, consumer goods, mining, agribusiness, finance, many more. And companies of all sizes use our software applications to make their business go. SAP's customers generate $46 trillion of total global commerce, and we're committed to sustainability in how we run our business and the software products we sell. SAP has been using AI for a long time already. It's been part of our software that automates so many activities. So we're talking about procurement, HR, supply chain, customer service, finance, lots of other places. What's super exciting is the incredible amount of innovation that's happening with this next era of artificial intelligence. With generative AI, this technology is becoming much smarter, much more connected, and much more baked into our everyday lives. Next slide. And you can go to slide 7.
So Susan, can you tell me what the title of the slide is? What's all the general AI hoopla about? Is that the one you want to be on?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's the opening. But if you want to go to slide 7, what is Gen AI? That's the one after.
Okay. I'm there.
Thanks. So let's start with some definitions. There is no one universally accepted descriptor for AI, and that's because AI can support so many different human activities and act and learn independently in many ways. The newest innovation of AI is called generative AI. So it's Gen AI for short. As its name implies, Gen AI generates new content. So instead of simply automating tasks or calculating the best solution based on the analysis of large data sets, so Gen AI takes artifacts from data, it uses them to generate new material. Now, this new material retains a likeness to the originals, but it doesn't repeat them. And Gen AI can generate all kinds of things. So media, such as words, images, audio, video, learning methods, business processes, software code, applications, synthetic data, that's unidentifiable data, and just models of physical objects. Gen AI grabbed everyone's attention in late 2022 when a company called OpenAI released ChatGPT. So this is a conversational application. It's built on top of a large language model, otherwise known as an LLM. So LLM foundational models, they're focused on natural language. And if you wanted to know, in ChatGPT, the GPT stands as an acronym for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. That's all it means. And ChatGPT is just one of many Gen AI tools. I don't want to drown you in alphabet soup. Just know that these models are not just text-based, not just about words. There are other models like BERT, DALL-E 2. They generate new images and replicate people's voices. I don't know if anyone saw it. I watched the Andy Warhol Diaries on Netflix, and they used AI to replicate his voice. And just full disclosure, I used a Gen AI model called Firefly to create some of the images in this presentation. Gen AI is designed to imitate the creativity and productivity of human beings. Now, this is at once its greatest strength and biggest risk. Rather than being told specifically what to do every step of the way, Gen AI is designed to create and innovate on its own with minimal human intervention. The algorithms used in public Gen AI tools like ChatGPT are trained on massive data sets. Now, that said, organizations are also creating their own private Gen AI tools using targeted, smaller data sets. Either way, these tools create these new, unique outputs based on the information that they've been fed. The better the prompt, the stronger the output. Just one thing, writing an effective prompt isn't easy. You need excellent language skills to write coherent, relevant prompts. You still need superior communication skills to get the relevant information from the large language model. What does that persona know? What's their jargon? What's the context? And all this is to say that Gen AI doesn't negate people. Yes, like any new technology, it will take over certain jobs, but it will also create new jobs. Just a few examples. Amazon just launched AI Ready. It's a program aimed at training at least 2 million workers in basic to advanced AI skills by 2025. And Amazon is trying to gain ground against some of their rivals like Microsoft and Google and just thousands of upstart companies. This past holiday season, Google announced new AI tools to help with shopping. So their tool, their Gen AI tool is called Bard. It's part of the Google Shopping Graph. It can suggest gift ideas based on someone's interests and then generate a photorealistic image of a potential gift or provide a virtual fitting for clothing. So, hey, that sweater doesn't drape quite right on your body. Well, here's another choice from a different online store that might look better on you. So one quick anecdote, it demonstrates how things haven't gone quite as people expected. At the beginning of last year, a bunch of freelance writers lost their gigs. I'm on Reddit, so I follow all these different sites and, different writers and, freelance writing just because I'm a writer. But what happened was their clients thought that Gen AI could create the content they were producing, whether it was blogs or videos or other marketing materials. Well, 6 months later, all those freelancers were hired back because Gen AI couldn't get the job done as well as humans. Right now, in addition, I'm not going to spend too much time in the negative, but Gen AI is not foolproof. There are many issues. Gen AI hallucinates, comes up with out and out lies, conflicting. As a brand journalist for SAP, what bothers me most is the lack of sourcing. I could never use it for my blogs because I have to attribute my thoughts, the research, the products, whatever I'm writing about, where did it come from? It cannot be a black box. And that's why companies like mine we're creating our own large language models with properly sourced information. In our case, it's customers are giving our permission, their permission to use it, Now, a leading research firm asked consumers about their top 5 concerns about Gen AI and AI overall. The first concern was loss of a human connection. The second was losing control and AI taking over the world. Third was data privacy, which quite frankly, I probably would have put that first. Fourth was the accuracy of information and disinformation. And the fifth concern was, as I mentioned before, job loss for themselves or others. Now, I realize many of the women on this call might be retired, but that doesn't mean AI is irrelevant to you. In fact, the same researchers found that even as consumers have concerns about AI, they also named the top 5 potential ways that companies could use Gen AI for improvements. Number 1 was faster customer service. Second was lower cost of products and services. Third was the ability to create products more efficiently. Fourth was easier to use interfaces, meaning the screens that we use when we visit an organization's website. And fifth was producing better products. So I'd like to show you what this means with 4 real-life AI examples. And these are from blogs I published, spotlighting SAP and our partners' innovations that are changing the world, because our vision is to bring out the best in every business. And if you can go to the next slide, please.
It's called AI in Our Everyday Lives.
Yep, and then go to the next one. That's just so go to 9. We should be on slide 9, AI-fueled shopping.
I can't see the slide number, Susan, just so you know. So if you tell me the title of the slide. Yeah.
Sorry. So AI-fueled shopping, we should be there.
AI, say it again, AI what? Fuel shopping.
AI-fueled shopping, yes.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. AI won't automatically solve every problem we have. However, one thing it's incredibly gifted at is sifting through tons of information to help people quickly find the product of their dreams. So say you're in the market for a new laptop, a washing machine, an e-bike, whatever it is. Imagine landing on a website and conversing with the smartest salesperson in the world, available 24/7. So this digital assistant asks the right questions to give you the right product as fast as possible. It's called Zubu. It's an AI-powered platform. It helps companies match customers with the exact product that they're looking for. So they want to remove choice paralysis by simulating the kind of in-store shopping experience you might get with the most knowledgeable salesperson. And Zubu helps global brands, retailers, and manufacturers realize an average of a 200% conversion uplift in customer purchases. Conversion is a retail term, meaning customers who visit the website and purchase a product. And these customers also bought more. Companies increased the average cart value by 47%. One power tool company increased customer engagements by an estimated 65% in over 35 global markets. Zuvu's AI tool ingests a company's product content from various sources and then translates it into human language. And it's a succinctly choreographed conversation with the customer. The digital assistant finds the product they want. And it's functioning as the most intelligent, eager salesperson any of us could ever have. The AI-based assistant gathers relevant products. They use chat. They use a lot of colorful visualizations, and it's all baked in. Even better, by collecting information from every customer interaction, the digital assistant is continuously learning what works best. They're looking at pricing preferences and buying patterns. It can make suggestions to improve conversion rates, such as maybe we need a different sequence of questions or different product configurations. Manufacturers are also using Zuvu for business-to-business selling online because it can intelligently automate a lot of the tedious, time-consuming activities, like creating complex orders and quotes based on inventory availability. This doesn't replace the human touch. Instead, it helps digitize sales touch points for increased profits. So for example, product search and order configuration that used to take about a week now takes 20 minutes. And intelligent automation reduces errors and returns while providing a better understanding of what customers need. The CEO of Zuvu told me that sales reps love the platform because it frees them up to focus on relationship building. And companies have improved cost savings and productivity by 400%. Next slide, please. Gen AI serves up sustainable food.
Got it.
Moving from shopping to food. Last fall, I went to Anaheim, California, and I attended the International Fresh Produce Association's global conference. And I found out how Gen AI is bringing innovations to the food industry. And yeah, people are eating them up, literally. McKinsey researchers estimate that Gen AI will add between $2.6 trillion to $4.4 trillion in annual value to the global economy across over 60 industries, including agribusiness. A few of the examples I covered in my blog that summarize the event keynote: people who use Tasty app, they can have real-time conversations with Botatui, and this is an AI-powered chatbot, answers everyday cooking questions, even suggests meals based on what's in someone's refrigerator, if you share your data with them. Instacart launched a Gen AI-based tool. Again, answers the age-old question, what's for dinner, lunch, or breakfast? Tacos, another AI hotspot. I mean, who knew? In a limited campaign last summer, Dallas-based Velvet Taco turned to ChatGPT-4 for new taco recipes. Over at Del Taco, another restaurant, a Gen AI-based automation tool greeted customers at the drive-thru, at the kiosk, and it just effortlessly took orders, upside drinks, recommended meal add-ons. And there was no escaping Gen AI at the Food and Floral Conference. Dr. Elliott Grant, he is the CEO of Mineral, that is Google's AI company, and talked about the technology's potential to reshape agriculture. So Gen AI tools can conduct quality inspections for fruits and vegetables in fields, coolers, distribution centers, and stores. It's consistent, unbiased accuracy day in and out. And I love what he had to say. This is a direct quote. Gen AI is not about doing the same jobs we did yesterday. It's about thinking differently about my work and workflow because I'm enabled by AI. So I could feed quality inspection data back to the grower or the retailer. It's not human versus machine. It's realizing I can do things radically different and better. So for example, AI can make sense of traceability data from the farm, distribution center, and store. You know, farmers and retailers can use this just to unpack the drivers of agricultural outcomes like flavor, shelf life, quality, sustainability. So for example, Gen AI could help shorten timeframes to breed more climate resilient, high yield crops. Yield is a complex combination of genetics, environment, management practices. It's a multi-dimensional problem that's well suited to Gen AI. And Dr. Grant thinks the agribusiness industry should adopt a more systemic view of Gen AI just to rethink everything. Think about how the electric motor revolutionized manufacturing from steam power to assembly line production in the early 1900s. What if any farmer could have the expertise of the best quality inspectors, agronomists, pest control advisors, and others in their pocket at any time? And skills like perception, reasoning, and knowledge discovery are well suited to Gen AI. And I would add, he didn't say this, but to me, I would say well-trained Gen AI. The combination of both humans and AI is incredibly powerful. But we also need to think ahead to make sure humans have rewarding, well-paid jobs in a world where technology can do some things better than us. Absolutely expect everyone across the food supply chain, from farmers and growers to food distributors, retailers, and restaurants, to bring Gen AI into how they produce and serve the food that we eat. Next slide, please, to Net2Grid, smart meters.
Yep.
So cooking all that food takes energy, which is the topic of my next Gen AI blog. Based in the Netherlands, Net2Grid analyzes smart meter readings from people's households. It's either collecting information directly from the meter, or it's information provided by the energy company. And the company's AI-based algorithms calculate energy consumption patterns of household appliances. And energy retailers can turn these insights into services. They can provide personalized offers for cost savings. They can answer customers' burning questions like the ones that you see on this slide. And I interviewed the CEO of Net2Grid at our utilities conference last year in Basel. He told me how Net2Grid delivers data intelligence to households from the energy provider's customer-facing app. So it includes alerts, cost savings suggestions. So if someone's producing solar power or home charging their EV, the meter readings show how much energy each device used and when the consumer used it. So they can alert the consumer if data shows, hey, your household is spending more on home heating, to comparable households. Now, in Belgium, there is a capacity tariff on the market. If your usage exceeds certain thresholds, your energy costs will increase. Net2Grid's app alerts consumers turn down their appliances to avoid incurring higher costs. So they could choose to increase self-consumption of their own solar power if the sun is shining, or schedule when to wash clothes or dishes at off-peak times when the energy rates are lower. Net2Grid's customers have saved up to 30% in energy costs just by following the company's energy savings recommendations. AI-based data helps energy companies too. Energy retailers incorporate Net2Grid's analyses into targeted marketing campaigns, and they align it with how customers are using the energy. And that means when customers call in questions about their bill, customer service teams can use that information to provide energy reduction tips. And this is a great example of how AI augments humans with targeted information. And remember when I talked earlier about how AI-based tech doesn't change how we do things, it changes what we do. So electric and gas utilities aren't the only organizations that are finding business value in Net2Grid's data intelligence from smart meters. One banking institution uses the service with its mortgage customers. So they provide advice to improve the energy efficiency ratings of their homes. And this kind of cross-industry intelligence is only possible from advanced AI tools. AI can help as we shift to renewables like solar panels and EVs, creating new sources of revenue for utilities and cost savings for people like us. Also, equally important, given the commoditization of energy resources, retailers are exploring services that offer new revenue streams, and they could be at potentially higher margins than just the energy itself. Looking ahead, providers could use data intelligence to help customers transition to renewables with services that include appliance maintenance for the best energy performance at the lowest cost. Next slide, please. And it is Come Fly with Gen AI.
Got it?
Thank you. Okay, time for a quick trip for my last example. If anyone flies Delta Airlines, this is something we can all look forward to. Improved customer service and experiences from employees who've been trained in part from Gen AI-based tools. And these tools are designed to provide AI-based training at the precise intersection of customer expectations and employee skills and career aspirations. What Delta is doing is based on a simple premise. The only way to deliver a wonderful and personalized customer experience is to do the same for your employees. And I talked with Tim Gregory. He is the Managing Director of HR Innovation and Workforce Technology at Delta. And he summed up the company's strategy this way: if you do well by your people, they will do well by customers. Delta Airlines is developing a Gen AI proof of concept, so it's not even a pilot yet, it's an idea, slated to automatically transform generic job skill descriptions into more accurate capabilities that reflect the job's requirements based on real world and updated employee and customer data in context, meaning what happens in real life situations. So that data intelligence just reveals which skills are most important to the company for a particular role. And the employee can combine those skills with their current capabilities. Where do they want to go? They can create a personal career path. And each individual employee will have a growth portfolio. And that profile will include their current skills and competencies. It'll be mapped to formal and informal learning opportunities, wherever they might be, within or outside the company. And some will be recommended by AI-based algorithms. In this case, AI isn't taking jobs away. It's increasing the effectiveness of training and development to bring employees along and keep them. Real world information from people in customer facing roles is extremely important to Delta, and they are focused on bringing frontline employees into management because they have this customer centric perspective, and they want to incorporate that into their managerial role. And these employees can use their existing knowledge. It reduces their learning curve, time to productivity. It's more cost effective to move someone up through the organization than to go to a net new hire. It also gives Delta a deeper talent bench for succession planning. Delta has already exceeded one of its objectives to fill 25% of corporate and management positions with people who are currently in customer-facing roles. Next slide, please. Their concluding thoughts.
Okay.
So, of course, there's so much more to this topic. Honestly, my biggest challenge in creating this presentation was deciding what to focus on. There's much more I could say. So just a few concluding thoughts. Among the reasons why people are excited about Gen AI is because of the market opportunity. Gartner researchers think it will total in the trillions later this decade. In a recent Gartner webinar, they polled more than 2,500 executives. 38% indicated that customer experience and retention is the primary purpose of their Gen AI investments. This was followed by revenue growth, cost optimization, and business continuity. And I also pulled together a couple of predictions from researchers at IDC and Capgemini to show how Gen AI can support innovations in healthcare and retail. And I also had to include some thoughts from Steve Wozniak. He is the co-founder of Apple. He is the other Steve that no one ever talks about, but I have seen him speak 3 times now. He's really good. And he spoke at the Food and Flora convention that I attended in California. And his thoughts were extremely important. Moving forward, there is a push to label Gen AI content. That Andy Warhol documentary that I mentioned earlier, they clearly said that his voice was generated using AI. So viewers knew that. And generally speaking, humans have to oversee all Gen AI-based outputs for accuracy, appropriateness, and also usefulness, before just relying on it or distributing it. Companies and regulatory agencies will need policies and controls to detect biased outputs and to take action accordingly. Here in the U.S., President Biden has tasked the National Institute of Standards and Technology to develop standards for AI systems and uncover their biases. They also may turn to AI experts from the private sector. I'm getting some feedback. Let me go on mute.
I'll see if I can mute.
Thank you. Gen AI changes long-held business norms. For example, Britain's Supreme Court recently ruled that AI programs cannot be named as an inventor for patents. There's also a major intellectual property and copyright issue. You may have noticed the New York Times recently sued OpenAI for copyright infringement. There's another case of nonfiction book authors. It's a civil case, a civil suit. And this is a big deal because OpenAI's business model revolves around scraping content from the internet. And this is just the first in a series of moves that will play out over the next few years. So this is unfolding as we speak. And if you are using any of the public Gen AI tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT, and anybody can sign up for the free version, just assume that any data or queries you enter will become public information because your data is feeding their AI tool. And that means that anyone will be able to access it. Whether we want it or not, Gen AI is here to stay. You can see the research findings from Forrester at the bottom of this slide. We want fast and helpful service. So no surprise, 67% of surveyed consumers predict generative AI will soon play a crucial role in customer service. That number is validated, skyrockets to 78% among people who've already used it. Because with the right prompts, Gen AI gives people answers quickly with the right amount of detail and context. People are increasingly impressed by what they're seeing as they explore it. Research has also found we want generative AI to improve interactions, not replace human agents. 3 out of 4 consumers who have interacted with Gen AI, they want and they're comfortable with human agents using it to help answer their questions. But they also want the accuracy and empathy that humans provide. In fact, 81% of consumers say having access to a human agent is critical in maintaining their trust with a business when they have trouble with AI-based customer service. I mean, we've all been frustrated by bots or help centers that provide incorrect information or take us in circles. So while generative AI can put more relevant information at people's fingertips, there will continue to be questions that require the problem-solving skills and empathy that only a human agent can provide. One of the predictions swirling around Gen AI is how it changes work for knowledge workers. And I'm a knowledge worker, I'm a writer. And I read an article the other day, and this person said that professionals will be judged less by, what they've collected or even what they know, and more by what they can do with what they know. So that's an important distinction. In a recent survey, 53% of people worldwide said they trust Gen AI to help with their financial planning. 67% of consumers said they could benefit from receiving medical diagnoses and advice from Gen AI. 2/3 of consumers would be willing to seek advice from Gen AI for personal relationships or life and career plans with, wait for it, baby boomers with a most likely age group. 70% were willing to use it for these purposes. Some experts predict that by 2025, that's just next year, Gen AI techniques will discover over 30% of new drugs and materials. That's up from 0 today. So the opportunities of, for Gen AI to be valuable are endless in every industry and even every part of our lives. And next slide, which is just, we'll kind of ease into the open Q&A.
Okay.
And I don't know if do we have questions, Ginny?
Well, I need to come out of the screen in order to see this. So
all right, then I'll keep talking, and then you can. So just to kick off the Q&A, I just put these together just to summarize many of the questions that I've already talked about and people have about Gen AI. Who defines responsible use, especially as cultural norms evolve? And who ensures compliance? What are the consequences for irresponsible use? If something goes wrong, how can people take action? How do we give and remove consent? Copyright law is not really the way to worry about the big societal effects of AI. I mean, copyright law wasn't created to protect privacy or protect us against dangerous content. So think about that. That's a really important distinction, even as the New York Times sues OpenAI for copyright infringement. How can we ensure that content creators, though, keep control of their own intellectual property and are compensated fairly? Look, I happen to know that people are already and have been scraping all of my blogs from Forbes for years, and there's really not much we can do about it. If I see it posted someplace else, that's one thing. I'm sure it's in someone's OpenAI model at this point. So there's also another issue, which is kind of interesting. Generative AI uses significant amounts of electricity. It is not sustainable right now. It's very expensive. And so that's among the reasons why some experts are advising companies to train their Gen AI models with fewer amounts of information that's more targeted. It's really a cost control measure. So those are all my slides.
So let me come back out, Susan, and I do have quite a few questions to ask of you.
Good. All right, great.
Get that started.
All right.
Okay.
And I feel bad that I'm not green. I wish I could see.
Yeah.
I wish you could see me. Yeah.
She's hiding from us. So here's a question.
I know.
Individual consumers. Information is obtained from the individual, but where and how do they obtain additional information? Do Amazon, Apple, Netflix, other retailers share info about me?
When you mean when you're shopping?
Rosemary, do you want to unmute and clarify your question?
Yeah, I mean, if I go looking to do shopping on AI and I'm looking for a particular product, are they searching all of the other retailers that I may buy from? And then what do they do with that money? I mean, with that information? Same thing goes with diagnosis. I give them all of my medical information to come up with a diagnosis. Then what do they do with it? And who do they share it with?
These are the questions that we have to find out. We have to ask them. This is about data privacy. That's what you're asking about. And no, the data privacy has not been worked out. This is totally new. And right now, I can tell you that OpenAI, any of the open platforms, they are just stealing it and they're using it in whatever way they feel like it. So you have no privacy there. And that's why I was saying, if you're using that tool, just be careful with it. You know, you want to put in any identifiable information. As far as the companies, you need to do due diligence. Ask them, how are you using this? You know, what happens to my information? You know, we don't even have any policies yet. We really don't. So yeah, these are, you know, questions that have to be answered. And, you know, is it going to be a situation where how do you opt in? How have you consented or how have you opted out? You know, we have similar rules right now, but it hasn't, you know, gone into any of these tools yet. So you can bet if it's free, then you're the one that they're selling. That's just the general rule.
So here's another question. Any thoughts on AI-based companions for, say, older adults?
That would be really interesting. Sure. You can create anything you want. I mean, that's what's so mind-boggling about this. It really is. I mean, I suppose you could go in and create some kind of a model. You know, you put the voice in, you call it up, it's on your computer, and yeah, you could talk with it. It keeps you company. You know?
There you go. Here's another one. How much education is needed to write the code for Gen AI?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's not about code. So Gen AI, it's a large language model. That's what it's built on. So it's not so much about code. It's just you're inputting all this information from all these different sources. I mean, I think what's hard when I even the phrase artificial intelligence, as soon as we hear the word intelligence, we think, oh, it's a brain. It thinks like us. It does not. So it's a bit of a misnomer, and I think it's misleading. But the way Gen AI works is the large language model is scraping all this data from the internet and from other sources, but basically that's what they're doing. If it's a private company like mine, we're going to create our large language model with information from our customers that they've given us permission to use. I mean, the information has to come somewhere. And then the Gen AI tool, you know, they've got these algorithms and they mix it up and you put your prompt in and then out pops hopefully what you're looking for. So that's how it works.
Hey, what happens to this personal data when companies go out of business?
That's a good question. These are all questions that people have to, we really have to, and that's part of the reason I wanted to do this talk, because I don't know that people are really thinking it through. I mean, they started OpenAI. It was a craze. It's still pretty crazy, but we really do need to think, think, what are these policies? What are they doing with our information? And yes, what happens when a company goes out of business or a company is sold? And all of your data that you gave them now goes to the company that bought them. I mean, that's actually more of a threat than going out of business. If it goes out of business, well, maybe it's just defunct and, the systems just go down and it disappears. Probably not, though, honestly. I mean, most places, they'll have a fire sale. And data has become one of the most important assets. Data and analytics are considered one of every company's most important assets. So, yeah, it's another thing to sell and monetize.
So I think certainly one of the issues that people are expressing is the one of privacy and how one goes about protecting yourself from this. They're calling it an invasion, but basically from having too much of your private information being used.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't call it an invasion. I mean, there are tremendous opportunities from this, but I think as consumers, it behooves us to be careful with our information too. And it's the kind of thing that if you go and you use one of the tools, just really look at, all right, what are there, what is the privacy here? What are you going to do with this information? I mean, for example, I have not used the Google shopping tool. I'd like to know. And before I used it, I would want to know, what do you even do with all this? I'm going to share my picture so you can see the shape of my body so you can find clothing that I'm looking for. I mean, that now we're getting really personal. It's one thing if you do your own search, but now you're sharing all of that. So I do think it's important to understand, what are they going to do with that? Is there a way that you can opt out of that? And if you can't opt out, well, maybe hang back a little bit until some of these things get ironed out. I think they'll be increasingly under pressure for data privacy. I really do. Now in Europe, they already have it. They have this regulation that went into effect about 5 years ago. And so they have much stronger controls than we do. Although it is about personal data. And I think California has stronger controls too, but generally speaking, in our country, we don't. So that's something that's going to have to happen, I think. That's my prediction.
So it's perhaps a case where the technology is a little bit ahead of the policy, procedural, risk management part of the picture.
Technology is always way ahead of anything that the law and the policymakers can do. They don't understand technology. It's always been ahead. The hard part now is that it's moving so quickly. That's the toughest part. We're not standing still. And, back in the 90s, they made decisions, this is in the US, for net neutrality. They weren't, the internet could grow unfettered. Well, looking back, maybe they should have put some controls around it. I don't know. But I think that we've learned a lot since then, and I think we are going to see some controls. I don't see this as spiraling out of control at all. I think it's going to be, all right, now we have to hold some of these companies more accountable and responsible, because responsible and ethical AI is very important to all of us. That's one of the watchwords of my company, SAP, and the relevant, responsible, ethical AI. That is what we have committed to do. Mm-hmm. So I think the challenge is with something like OpenAI that anyone and everyone can use. Those are bigger questions.
Yes. And I think a lot of people's concerns about AI are really summed up that way. It's fear of what they're doing with my data. It's what if there's disinformation, especially when it relates to medical types of things. What is Big Brother watching me? It's all those sorts of concerns people have until there's a better understanding of what controls there are around the data. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to talk about medical for a second. I mean, that's a really interesting use case. And that's all we're calling them right now, are use cases. But this could help physicians, and not to make decisions, but to augment their decision making. So the physician is still in charge, but they're using the tool to do things that would take a lot longer to do. And maybe the tool comes up. But I think that we'll find, especially, I think always, is something, when it comes to people's lives and health, I think that's going to be a little different. It's just my sense. And that they will have a lot more controls over it. But they are using it. I can tell you that pharmaceutical companies are definitely using this for discovery. This is a great tool for discovery, drug discovery, because all they do, they have vast data sets. And but again, it's going to be checked by humans.
So Susan, are there other companies beside yours that you're aware of that are championing ethical or responsible AI? Is there a lot of that going on?
It depends. It really depends. I
In
think
your
that some
travels,
companies
in your travels, have you come across companies that are similar to yours in wanting to pursue the ethical and responsible directions with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly our partners. We would not work with anyone like all the examples that I showed you, Zubu and Net2Grid, all of them have absolutely pledged, that they're, they've got privacy controls, they really disclose, what we're doing with the information, how we use it. There are definitely controls on them. In Belgium, they have to, just because of the European laws. But I know that Zubu is doing the same thing. So there are a lot of partners that we use, that we work with. I can't speak for every company on the planet, but I think that certainly go to their websites. If you're thinking of doing business with a company, go to their website, poke around, see what they say about Gen AI and where is their privacy. I do think it's important for us to be informed as consumers. I really do. And one of the biggest things too, I think that you mentioned disinformation. That unfortunately, that's a really tough one, because the AI can, and I mentioned the Andy Warhol documentary where they used Gen AI to replicate his voice, and I guess it kind of sounded like him. I mean, I don't know him personally, I don't know what he sounded like, but that's what they did, and so it is being weaponized by some bad actors already with that. So maybe just be a little more skeptical, double check things.
And what about the world of academia, Susan? There's some concern that our high school students, for instance, learning how to do research and write papers versus being able to use some of these tools to just write the papers for them. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it depends how it's used. A particular tool could be the best, research trove you could ever want, but we still have to make sure that people come into it and are using their skills. I think it's like any other tool. When word processing first came out, I remember this, in the 90s when students started really using it. It didn't go mainstream until then. I mean, I began using it in the 80s, but definitely the 90s. And one of the things that happened, the students would be, using all the bells and whistles of Word, let's say, to do things like underline and just frills, right? And what they found is that they thought that was doing something. So as opposed to the actual content of what they were writing. And the teachers had to regroup and say, wait a minute, it's the substance here, not how it looks. And I think we're going to go through the same kind of reset with Gen AI. I don't think it's going to work to ban it. It's just happened already. So it's really going to come down to, I think they're going to have to adjust how they teach as well. I know there are some AI detectors, they don't work. And so I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I could see teachers thinking, all right, we need to do things differently, acknowledging this is a tool, how can we use it? I mean, we're going through the same thing at my company. We're talking about training all the employees in the different ways that we could use AI, Gen AI, just to improve productivity. change things up a bit. I mean, I'm thinking about it as a writer. I have gone to OpenAI. I'm not impressed, but eventually, I think that that there is that a lot of knowledge workers will be using it as well. But I think it'll change education. I really do. I don't know, but they'll figure out how to use the tool.
Okay, well, someone wrote a comment that I don't understand, but maybe you will. It says ChatGPT passed the USMLE Step 1 exam. I think it was in the news. I don't know what that means. Do you? Or
I'm assuming someone fed the test into the tool and got it to answer the questions. Is that what happened? That must have been what happened, right?
okay. RP, I don't know who that is, but do you want to elaborate on your question?
My name is Rekha. I'm in the healthcare field. So the USMLE is United States Medical Licensing Exam that all medical school graduates have to take. So that's step 1, step 2. And I know that it actually passed the step 1 exam. So it wasn't that somebody fed the questions. I think this was in the news. I can find the exact reference. So it's just really interesting that it's capable of passing exams the way medical school graduates can.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is interesting. I mean, I don't know. I've really never been more excited. I mean, every year I feel like we make advances, but now I'm thinking, well, we're on the cusp of something totally new. And that's why, you're hearing so much about it. And it's just unfolding as we speak. It's going to touch everything. It really is.
It is really exciting. I can share that my son got married and I had to write the mother of the groom speech, and I didn't use it, but one of my fellow TTN women said, you should try it. That's how she did hers. And it gave great results. And she then said, make it funnier. And it did. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
There was another comment that said, it's amazing to build a travel itinerary. So
I would think, that kind of a query would go well, that kind of a prompt, because it's pretty fact-based, and you could give it some prompts that are very concrete, right? And, we want to do this, this, and this, and then you ask some questions, and you would tell it who you are and what you like. Again, it's that context. So, yeah, I could see that. Absolutely.
Yes. And she elaborated that she did a cross-country trip and it included dog spots and dog-friendly hotels and things like that. So that's pretty helpful. There's also a comment about the recent strike with the actors and how a piece of that had to do with producers informing actors when their images were going to be used and how much they will be used. So it sounds like they're also trying to wrestle that to the ground as well.
Yeah, this is about your intellectual property because, an actor, their face, their likeness, their image, their voice, that's what they sell, what they're selling. It's them. So what happens when that can be replicated, which it already can be to a degree, and does the studio or the production or film production company, do they get to own that and keep using it without paying that actor or even not even about payment, just use it any way they want? Who owns that? Ownership is going to be a big, big thing. And that's why I mentioned the patent as well, because ownership is going to change. That this will be, and that is, that was a big part of their strike as well. They're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And you can't, you can't blame them. I'm thinking, wow, what would happen? And some people might be satisfied. Viewers, an audience might be satisfied with a reasonable facsimile of the actor as opposed to the real thing.
It seems like with most technology, it starts with fear people have. And then as things start to pan out, the fear starts to go away as more attention is paid to policies and risks. So whenever things are automated, people start to say, we're all going to lose our jobs, and it gets sort of crazy. And then it turns out that, well, that's not really true at all.
And just I was just going to say some perspective on that. I mean, look, when the telephone was first invented, people were terrified of it. They wouldn't use it. So it's really no different.
Yes, we're in that turn. There's some questions about how exactly to go about having a person write a speech and so forth. How do you start? I think you use the free chat GBT. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
And-
you use, I'm assuming you used OpenAI. That's the free one.
Mhm, okay, yes. And you just
So
talk
you
into it and it gives you feedback. It produces something. I'm not an expert on it because I didn't use it.
Look, writing prompts is hard, I have to say. I mean, depending on what it is. I guess a wedding speech would be easier. The kind of writing that I do, no. That's not going to work because I get my sources. I mean, I'm interviewing people. I don't want a black box. I mean, it has to be, you know, here's the product, here's what the customer said. And it's so OpenAI isn't going to know that information. But yeah, to write a prompt, you have to think about what is the persona here? So, you know, you are, and that's how you talk to it. You are the mother of the bride, and, you know, you're really excited, but slightly sad, and you want to have a couple of funny anecdotes, and you know what I mean? So you have to create it. I mean, look, I'm a writer, so I would just write it myself. To me, it's not worth it. I would just, you know, but that's how you do it. You have to get into the persona. So you have to tell the tool exactly what you're trying to produce.
And Susan, that free AI tool, what is it called again?
OpenAI.
OpenAI. So people could Google that and
Yeah.
get that app.
Just go to the website. OpenAI, go to the website. Anybody can sign up, but just be aware whatever you put in there is now told to the world, and it's going to feed their machine so that when other people go into OpenAI, somehow your information is going to get mixed in with that.
So I used it to say we were trying to come up with a name of a special interest group. And I put in different sort of descriptive words that we were thinking about for that group, and it came back with a half dozen different suggestions. It was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So there are
Yeah,
some
so
ways.
Yeah, that's a good way of using it, I think. So it's very targeted.
And frankly, I didn't care if anyone stole that information.
There you go. I'm thinking more from a business perspective.
Yes. So ones that you pay for, what would be an example of one that you would pay for versus the free one?
Well, they have ChatGPT. There is a paid version.
Okay.
All of them have paid versions. I think it's ChatGPT 4 or 3. I forget what it is. 3.5, or I think maybe it's 4 or 5. ChatGPT 5 maybe. So that you have to. And I think there must be have a paid version as well.
So for people who are interested in playing with it, obviously considering what sort of information you want to supply, but if you want to play with it, people could go get the free version and just try it for things that aren't going to be risky for you or of privacy concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I had fun. I mean, so some of I'll tell you which ones, if you want to open up the slideshow again. So the first one on the cover, that was Gen AI, that woman. She's Gen AI.
Oops, I'm trying to do that. Let's see if I can. I don't know. I think I lost the presentation, so I can't do it, but.
All right.
Okay.
So the
Any
first
more
one-
questions? I'm sorry, Susan, go ahead.
I was just going to say the fourth one as well. The fourth on slide 4, that was also Gen AI. So 2 of them were Gen AI.
And I can send the slides to you guys if that's all right with Susan.
I'm going to unmute because I've had my hand raised, but you haven't called on me. Can you put the website? I mean, everybody says talk into it, do this. Somebody wrote a website for me, but it disappeared. Where do you go? I mean, do you just sit in front of your computer and talk? You have to have a website or something.
No, you enter it in. I type it in. Go to
Type in
openai.com.
what? What is it?
What you want. You have to type in the prompt.
So
What are you
Nancy,
trying
go
to
to
do?
OpenAI, you get that app, open
So it's
that.
an app and you have to download the app. correct?
No, it's not. I mean, I just use it on my laptop. I don't, is there an app for it? I didn't realize it was an app.
I don't know
But
anything.
I just-
Talk to me like I'm 3 years old. Actually, a 3-year-old would know more. But so
You
you
just
get
on
on
your
your
computer.
laptop and you put in the search bar OpenAI. And
Right.
then-
And the
and that's
company,
it.
the
then you
company will come, the company name will come up and you'll click on the name of the company. It'll be called openai.com. You'll open up their website and you'll log in to that website, to their website, to openai.com.
Okay,
You
thank you.
have to sign up. Yeah, you do have to register. You have to sign in. You have to give them some information about yourself. So once you
you.
set up your account, and once you set up your account, you can do text. They have visuals as well. So there are lots of different things that you can create. I've only done the text.
So does anyone have a final question? We've kind of covered a whole lot of ground. And I guess the summary is amazing things to come, but obviously needs more policy and procedure around it, but it will get there. Joan, I see your hand is up, so go ahead, unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Where does it get all of this information? Where does it collect the data from? Just because I logged into a store and bought something, is that the data that it collects? And everybody likes these color socks, so now these are the most popular socks? I just don't get it. I'm sorry.
Not necessarily most popular. Basically, these machines, the tool is scraping the internet and all kinds of other places as well. It's also learning as people like you go in and input their own information. That's why I was saying, when you go to OpenAI, when you enter your prompt, you enter your information, it's going to save all that information that you put in there. So your information also becomes part of just their body of knowledge, if you want to call it that.
Okay,
So
but
that's
how,
where the information
you
comes from.
earlier
And
on you said it could it could create new medicines.
Right.
yes, that's
How can
correct.
that happen?
Absolutely correct. So with medicine, that's different. With medicine, I mean, you've got the pharmaceutical companies have tons of data on patients, on chemicals, on everything.
Right.
So they are using it for discovery. So they've got documentation, they've got trials, whatever they're doing, experiments. All that data goes into the system and trains the algorithm. So it's coming up. That's how it can discover things much faster than humans. So they're using their own.
So let me
So the
close.
data.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So let me wrap us up by saying we probably still have tons of questions. I'm curious whether people would like to have a session where someone gives you a demo of ChatGPT and actually shows it to you. Would that be fun and useful and helpful? Give me a thumbs up if you like that idea, because we can probably pretty easily do that for you and actually see some ways that it can be used. Shall we do that?
Yes.
All right. Well, I thank you all for coming. That interest was so high. I'm sorry we had some technical problems. But Susan, you did an amazing job working from your phone and blindly leading us through slides. So really thank you for persevering through that. It was really, really great. And I think we have a good foundation.
Happy to do it. This was fun. So I do get the sense that people are very interested in this. And I hope I was able to help you just gain a slightly better understanding of what this is all about.
Yes, you did.
Very helpful, Susan. Thank you so much. And thank all of you for coming. And we'll schedule a follow-up. I'm glad to see you're so interested in it. So everybody have a great weekend. And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Bye.